According to the International Labour Organization, about 1 in 4 jobs worldwide could now be affected by AI. That's roughly 25% of all jobs. And it's not evenly spread, around 34% in rich countries, while only 11% in poorer ones. Goldman Sachs estimates that up to 300 million full-time roles are exposed to automation globally, while McKinsey projects that about 30% of all work hours could be automated by 2030. An IIM Ahmedabad survey found that 68% of white-collar workers expect parts of their jobs to be automated within 5 years, and 40% believe some of the skills they use now would soon become irrelevant. An RBI study already notes the early AI adoption in banking, and NASSCOM estimates that domestic AI markets will grow by 25 to 35% annually in 2027. A lot of people are saying a lot of things, some exaggerated, some toned down. But what exactly is hovering over our heads? Let's decode together. Welcome to the Cognoscenti, where we understand the systems that drive our world, breaking down economics, finance, policy, and geopolitics in a clear, relevant way, and just a little deeper than the everyday take. This is the second episode of the Cognoscenti. I'm your host Siddharth Nair. Let's dive deep into today's topic. The world isn't just changing fast, it's changing unevenly. And what could be a better playground to gauge these fast movements than India itself? So in this episode, we'll step into the chaos, the global panic over automation, the quiet preparation back home, and the billion-dollar race to build India's own AI systems. We'll dig into the promises, the contradictions, and the people caught in between, from coders and warehouse workers to firms betting big on India's future. And as the dust settles, we'll ask the real question. Will AI help India move forward together or leave millions behind in the process? Feels like we've been here before, doesn't it? During the Industrial Revolution, machines replaced manual labor. Weavers and craftsmen lost their livelihoods almost overnight, and people feared that technology would wipe out work altogether. For a while, that fear seemed justified. Entire industries vanished and new jobs were scarce. But over time, those same machines created entirely new sectors and new kinds of employment, from factory management to logistics and retail. In other words, the type of work changed, but the existence of work didn't. The economy adapted and the employment shifted rather than disappeared. History shows that such transitions often bring years of disruption before stability returns. Workers take time to retrain, industries adjust, and wages recover slowly. However, if countries invest early in reskilling and support systems, this adjustment period can be shortened dramatically, allowing workers to move faster into new, technology-driven roles instead of being left behind. Similarly, AI could follow the same arc, short-term disruption leading to long-term productivity if nations prepare in time. India may be lagging behind, but as our aspirations of becoming a Vishwaguru grow, we must ask, should we really rush headfirst into this AI revolution? Let's rewind to the last major wave, the internet boom. Back then, India chose to observe and adapt, learning what truly worked and investing only where it mattered. And when the dust settled, we emerged as a global IT powerhouse. Perhaps we're still following the same playbook today, a deliberate move of strategic delay. Preparing for AI isn't just about building faster chips or bigger models. It's about building the right institutions. Because without them, the AI transition could get messy. Workers could get displaced faster than they can reskill. Data could be misused, and innovation could deepen inequality instead of reducing it. We can divide India's preparation into 3 key pillars: enabling institutions, insuring institutions, and stewarding institutions. Let's start with enabling institutions. These are the systems that prepare people and businesses to adjust to new technologies. They focus on giving workers the right skills, education, and digital access so that when AI changes how industries work, people can move into new, better roles instead of losing their employment outright. This matters especially for India, where a large share of workers are still in routine, low-skill jobs vulnerable to automation. ESI argues that linking reskilling programs can shift workers into higher-skill, AI-supported roles. This was actually seen with digital payment spread. Vendors who learned to use UPI saw their incomes rise. A similar ecosystem for AI with short courses could help factory workers or delivery staff become AI tool operators instead of being replaced by them. To build that foundation, India has started putting certain systems in place. Some of the key efforts include Skill India Digital. Launched in 2023, is a national platform that brings online courses, verified skills certificates, and job listings together in one place. It links with public systems like DigiLocker to help people train and connect with employers. The India AI mission, approved in March 2024 with an outlay of more than 10,000 crores, adds an AI focus. Its future skills pillar plans short AI courses with universities and industry, along with national computing, data, and safety initiatives. The Maha Jobs portal, started in 2020, connects local employers with skilled and unskilled workers, a model that shows how state platforms can work with national skilling efforts when data systems align. While these initiatives show intent and early progress, their real test lies in how effectively they work on the ground. And that's where several gaps start to appear. The first problem is that these systems remain disconnected. India's skilling network still runs through multiple ministries and state bodies that often work independently. The Skill India digital platform was meant to bring them together, but progress has been slow. Data sharing and coordination between schemes are still limited. Secondly, there remains little public information on AI training. When an RTI asked for details on the India AI Mission's 10 lakh citizens training program, no records were made available. This points to weak documentation and a lack of transparency around implementation. Third, training is yet to be translated into enough jobs. Since 2015, around 1.6 crore people have been trained under PMKVY, but fewer than 15% were placed in jobs. The reach is large, but the real impact on employment remains limited. Lastly, tracking systems are still catching up. New updates to labor surveys are expected to improve data quality, but as of now, results are patchy and inconsistent across programs. Without a shared data system, it's difficult to know which initiatives are really working. We'll take a closer look at these gaps and the broader challenges of integrating AI into India's existing skilling system later in the video. Insuring institutions are systems that protect people when economic or technological changes threaten their jobs or income. Their goal is to reduce the shock of disruption by giving temporary financial help, access to healthcare, or retraining support so that people can recover and find work again. In policy terms, this is called social protection. Social protection includes things like insurance, pensions, cash transfers, and training support. In short, any public system that prevents people from falling into poverty when their livelihoods are disrupted. For example, gig workers or entry-level coders. This is how it looks in practice. The eShram portal, started by the Ministry of Labour and Employment in 2021, was designed to be a single record of unorganized workers and link them to insurance or pension benefits. By early 2025, more than 30 crore workers had registered, an impressive number on paper. But the real question is, how much this registration helped them? Many workers say they signed up but never received any benefits. Overall, India has built the infrastructure for protection, but not yet the impact. The systems exist, but they are fragmented, underfunded, and slow to reach the people who need them most. Until these institutions start working in practice, not just on paper, millions of workers will remain one disruption away from falling through the cracks. Stewarding institutions are the systems that make sure new technologies like AI are used safely, fairly, and responsibly. They set the guardrails, rules for data use, transparency, and accountability, so innovation can continue without harming public trust. As discussed, initiatives like the India AI Mission aim to ensure that as AI adoption grows, systems stay transparent, accountable, and aligned with public interests. At the same time, the government is updating the digital personal data protection rules to put the 2023 data law into action. These rules define how companies can collect and use personal data, and how users can withdraw consent or report misuse. Draft changes to the IT rules 2021 also propose labeling deepfakes and AI-generated content, so platforms clearly identify synthetic media and make their removal process more transparent. Together, these steps form the early structure of India's AI governance framework. But rules and frameworks alone are not enough. What really matters is that the people can trust how AI is used. Because if citizens can't do that, whether in credit scoring, education, or policing, the technology will never scale sustainably. For instance, bias in healthcare AI can have devastating consequences, reinforcing deep-rooted inequalities. Take the pulse oximeter, for example. It measures oxygen levels using infrared light, but it often overestimates readings in people with darker skin tones. That means black patients are nearly 3 times more likely to have dangerously low oxygen levels go undetected. This shows how bias can begin at the level of clinical measurement. And when AI builds on such flawed data, it can magnify those disparities even further. A clear example of bias in education surfaced during the 2020 UK GCSE and A-level grading controversy. Formulas used to predict exam results ended up favoring students from private schools, while unfairly downgrading those from state funding schools. It exposed how even well-intentioned algorithms or formula-based systems can amplify inequality instead of correcting it. That's where policy steps like the Draft Digital India Act come in, proposing risk-based AI regulation, algorithmic transparency, and grievance redressal mechanisms for citizens. But laws alone won't guarantee fairness. The real challenge lies in how these rules are enforced and whether they can keep pace with the technology that's evolving far faster than regulation ever has. Let's talk about costs. Training frontier AI is not cheap. OpenAI's GPT-4 cost around $78 million, and Google's Gemini Ultra almost around $200 million. And that's just compute. It is important to understand that modern AI systems are extremely resource intensive. People often point to DeepSeek R1 and say, oh look, they made it for $5 million. But experts argue that this number is deeply misleading. When you factor in compute infrastructure, datasets, personnel, and full-scale development, the real cost could be closer to $1 billion. So yes, headline training runs cost tens of millions, but ownership and scaling takes it orders of magnitude higher. This is why only a handful of players can compete at the top tier globally. Now the problem is, most Indian startups and public research labs rent compute from foreign cloud providers. The result? Experimentation is slower, more expensive, and riskier for sensitive data. This gap shows up in frontier tech. India is trying to catch up, and we are spending real money. Reliance is building one of the world's largest AI data centers in Jamnagar, with a capacity of 3 gigawatts, and is estimated to cost 20 to 30 billion US dollars. Google confirmed a $15 billion AI hub in Visakhapatnam. Data center capacity in India is projected to hit 1.8 gigawatts by 2027, with Chennai, Mumbai, Hyderabad, and Noida becoming major hubs. On the research side, IIT Madras launched IndiCasa, an open data set to evaluate caste, gender, religion, and disability bias in LLMs. India is one of the first nations to build native bias testing tools. But gaps remain. Capital intensity. Even the flagship Jamnagar project will cost at least $20 billion. Deloitte estimates AI growth needs 50 million square feet of new real estate, along with major grid upgrades. We still lack high-quality multilingual and bias-checked datasets. Ethical enforcement skills are limited beyond top IT firms, and infrastructure is metro-centric, causing Tier 2 and Tier 3 India to have little access to advanced compute. Sarvam AI has been selected under the India AI mission to build India's own large-scale LLM, multilingual, multimodal, and population-scaled. The celebration was instant, but so were the questions. Since this is backed by government compute, some argue that it should be fully open source from day one. Sarvam says openness will come, but after security, scalability, and sovereignty has been ensured. And that's the tension. Sovereign AI isn't just about secrecy or openness. It's about public trust and national capability. This story is not about one company. It's about whether India can build frontier AI on Indian soil with Indian infrastructure and actually compete with the US and China. After years of relying on foreign compute, India is finally building its own GPU supersystems. It's a turning point, but also a test. Because now the real question is, can we scale fast enough to make sovereign AI real and not just a slogan? Beneath these bold ambitions lies a deeper controversy. It's not just open source versus closed source. It's about who really controls the foundations of India's AI future. But building AI is one thing. Getting people to use it is another. Let's say an Indian startup builds its own version of Google. We'll call it Bharat Search. It's fast, it works well, and it's made right here in India. But the moment it launches, it's already competing with Google itself. A company that's been around for decades, that people already trust, and that's free, familiar, and deeply integrated into our phones and browsers. Now, if you're an average user, would you really switch to Bharat Search? Probably not, because Google already does the job perfectly fine. That's the problem Sridhar Bembu is talking about. In India, our market isn't protected, meaning Indian startups don't get breathing space to grow before fighting global giants. So even if they make something good, they get crushed, not because their product is bad, but because the market rewards companies that already have scale and reach. not local origin. This tension comes at the exact time the government's Economic Survey 24-25 is pushing a new framework, augmented intelligence. Not AI replacing humans, but AI amplifying human skill. The survey argues that the next wave of growth won't come from machines replacing people. It'll come from humans and machines working together. The world's strongest economies, like the United States, Japan, South Korea, Germany, are already moving in that direction. They're learning to combine human judgment and creativity with machine precision to raise productivity without hollowing out their workforce. And for India, that message couldn't be clearer. Our labor force is massive, young, and diverse. Full automation simply cannot be the solution. If companies use AI only to cut jobs and salaries, the benefits won't be shared, and inequality will deepen. We have already seen what happens when that balance breaks. Take Klarna, for example, the Swedish fintech that replaced around 700 employees with AI tools to save costs. At first, it seemed like a win. Faster service, lower expenses. But soon, customer satisfaction dropped. AI systems struggled with complex and emotional queries, and eventually, Klarna had to rehire staff. It became a global reminder that full automation without human context and creativity can easily backfire. In contrast, some Indian firms are trying a different approach, retraining instead of replacing. Infosys has skilled over 3 lakh employees through its Lex platform, helping them adapt to AI-driven workflows. TCS plans to retrain about 1 lakh employees every year under its AI for You initiative. Amazon India uses AI to assist warehouse workers, cutting manual errors rather than jobs. That's the broader point. The question isn't will AI take jobs, it's who can adapt fast enough to stay relevant. And here, India might have an edge. The World Economic Forum's Future of Jobs 2025 report says that about 2/3 of Indian companies plan to hire more tech-trained workers, higher than the global average. The economic survey also points to the need for better skill training, closer links with industry, and short, flexible courses that teach digital and problem-solving skills. But the real challenge is quality, not quantity. Training has to keep up with how fast technology is changing. We need a workforce that keeps learning, not one that's trained once and left behind. Because in the end, it's not about how many people we train, but whether they find steady, meaningful jobs. That will decide if India's demographic advantage becomes real progress or just a missed chance. What do you think? Let us know in the comments below. This is the Cognoscenti, helping you see through the system and understand the story beneath. If you found this insightful, consider subscribing and stay tuned for more.